Let me check. Okay.
All right, we've both
So
done the thing. This is Greg Watkins Cole, who where is it you work now? Like I know you work at a museum.
I work at Yale Peabody Museum in at Yale.
But yeah,
So I manage
your
I
focus
manage
is
the
specifically on.
yep. So I manage the collections of herpetology and ichthyology.
Right.
So amphibians, reptiles, and fish. I tell people I do all the scales and slime.
There you go.
Yep, yep.
So as always, the first question is what was the first thing that you really got into? Like doesn't even have to be deal with scales and slime, just
All
whatever it was
right,
that held you for more than a week or two when you were a kid.
right. Well, I dinosaurs were a big thing as a kid. I had all the little collectible plastic dinosaurs from the dime store.
You remember your favorite?
Um, Stegosaurus. Yep, yep. Yeah, the spikes and the sails on them. That's really, and then Dimetrodon, which is not really a dinosaur, but pretty cool. Um, and then I played a lot with little Tonka trucks and stuff in the flower bed in the sandbox. And my mom remembers me like at 3 years old, having an argument with a garter snake that was also playing with the Tonka trucks. So that probably lit the fuse.
Hmm.
So,
And how did that did any of this manifest when you were in school or like as you
oh yeah,
were growing up?
yeah. When I was man, probably not even kindergarten yet. I had a bunch of frogs for pets and some lizards, tadpoles, and let them metamorph, and then they always got out when they metamorphed because they no longer stayed in the fishbowl. Those rascals. And then throughout, really junior high and high school, everything in the world was lizards. If there were lizards involved. Now, it used to be that someone could say the word lizard in a crowd and I would hear them. So that kind of thing. So I did science fair projects on lizards and tree frogs, and um, eventually found my college that way because that's where the Ohio State science fair was at a school that later became my undergrad. So
So what did you go to school specifically for? I'm so
yeah,
curious the path it was that got you to
yeah,
Yale.
yeah, yeah. So I majored in zoology. Did a lot of independent studies on reptile anatomy and things like that, and I minored in theater tech.
Hmm.
So, lighting and makeup design, stuff like that. And I tell people, in a way, a museum exhibit is a small stage.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so then I did grad school. I taught for a while. My wife is a doctor, and we moved from Ohio to Connecticut for her residency.
Mhm.
Um, and then I eventually got a part-time job prepping skeletons at the museum, and then just never left. Stayed in one way or another.
Uh, so what kind of a doctor is your wife?
Family practice.
Cool. I may
Yep.
want to talk to her because that's one again, it falls in the category of shit I don't know.
Okay.
So tell me about prepping skeletons. What's the process?
I always tell people you start with something that's dead.
Ideally,
It's
yeah.
ideally, yes,
They
it's
don't like
much
it if you
nicer.
try and prep them while
Yeah,
they're still
yeah,
inside.
yeah. They move too much. And you with snakes, I tell people it's sort of like taking your socks off if you cut your socks down the middle first.
Hmm.
So you take the skin off. You take out all the entrails. We take a tissue sample, usually from liver, because there's a lot of cells in liver, a lot of good DNA source. And then we dry it because the bugs that eat them want them dry.
Hmm. The
So then
the
they
dermestids, right?
yep, dermestids, yep, it's the same beetle that it's sort of the last thing that gets to a carcass in the woods. It's not the first thing, so it wants it dry and jerkied. And in your house, it will eat the lining off your carpet. It'll eat drywall, books, leather.
Yeah, we live in the woods, and for a while we had a corpse farm in our yard of dead deer, just because I would just pick them up from the side of the road
Yeah,
and let them. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and I actually considered setting up a whole dermestid thing,
yeah.
but you have to deal with the outgassing and all of that stuff.
Yep, they're pretty smelly.
Yeah, it's a whole process, like environment that you have to set up just
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely. The right humidity, the right temperature, and if it's the right temperature to be fast, the adults fly.
Hmm.
And I have more than once had, dermestids land on me,
Hmm.
you know. And when I first started the dermestid room, was a room where they were loose,
Oh,
and you would put things on shelves, and they would land on them and eat them and stuff.
that must have been a
And
really unpleasant place to walk into.
it was a and it had like cotton batting on the floor,
Mhm.
and you'd walk in. It was like this really bizarre, like bouncy house from hell. You know, like you had the squishiness under your feet, and then flies and bugs. And but then when I got there, I was like, "Hey, have you heard of cages?
Right.
You know, let's try some cages."
Not Dermisted, but we one year a friend of ours gave us a Madagascar hissing cockroach named Number,
Yeah,
and she may actually multiply, but they didn't know for sure. And we had them for 6 months, and we are like, "Oh, okay, cool, 6 months." Because we looked it up, and we are like,
yeah,
"2 months, they haven't. All right, so we're good." What we didn't know is they could hold the semen inside them until
yeah,
we felt they were comfortable. So at one point,
yep,
like 6 months later, we look out, and there's this big white thing sticking out of her butt,
yeah,
and in 4 years, we went from one hisser to a tank with
right,
hundreds of them,
yeah,
and we did good with it for a while, like keeping it clean. But eventually, it just gets to the point where it's so much.
yeah.
And
And it's an interesting smell.
yes, yeah, and so we ended up donating them to a zoo that didn't actually have a Madagascar exhibit, so that, or had a Madagascar exhibit but no cockroaches.
Yeah,
They were cool because you'd walk by them at night, or like somebody would do something, you'd set one off, and all of a sudden you hear, kss, kss, kss.
yeah, yeah, yep. They all start going. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It is funny. The mentioning that smell. I bet you
Like a
notice that
weird
when
mustard kind of smell. I
right.
don't know if
I
it's,
bet you notice it when you're out in public sometimes.
hmm.
I don't know. I do. If I walk into like the men's room at the train station, I'm like, oh, cockroaches. So
I
it's
don't think
kind of a bad superhero trick, you know?
right.
The worst superhero ever.
Yeah, or a large dead thing in the vicinity.
Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep, yep. So that's fun though.
That's cool.
Uh,
So you're cataloging, you get the DNA, I assume, just to type it, that.
yeah. So a lot of what I do is getting specimens curated and stored archivally for someone to use.
Right.
And I tell people that person might not be born yet,
Hmm.
but someday someone's going to say, "Hey, I need to look at something Greg put in the freezer 20 years ago."
Right. And so
So,
you're not like re-articulating them. You're just putting them in a thing.
yep,
Here's all the information. Slide
yep,
it in the drawer.
yep, yep. In fact, with a lot of things, I take them apart completely.
Hmm.
Like I'll even macerate the skull so it completely falls apart.
Oh, okay.
So each bone of the skull is separate because that's how paleontologists find things.
Right. Right.
They find a piece of the puzzle, so they have to go find out what puzzle it came from.
Hmm. I
So,
remember when I was a kid in school, somebody brought in a disarticulated cat, and that was kind of a fun day of learning how all the bones work
yeah,
together. And then,
yeah,
like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago or whatever, I actually found an owl that was so killed just so recently that it didn't even know it was dead. And
yeah,
I took it home and I actually did the whole like slicing it open, then doing the peel thing,
yeah,
boiling it all. So that was just a fascinating
yeah.
exercise. Although I imagine yours is much more elegant than
Um,
we did it.
it's a similar process.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
How large do you go?
Trying to think of the largest. I think I've done a python that was around 10 feet. We've done, again, not necessarily my department, but we did three bears once, and I made all kinds of Goldilocks jokes.
Naturally.
So these were all roadkill bears the state
Mhm.
gave us, and the event I called it Bearpalooza. You
Actually,
know?
this was a prop I made for a video that I never actually shot,
Oh
but
yeah,
this is a
yeah,
bear skull,
yeah.
a black bear skull.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, you would have liked it. We had them hanging from their heels from forklifts.
Oh, that would, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally the kind of thing that I
yep,
would want to paint.
yep.
Hmm.
So yeah, so prepped them out. We had them went from whole black bears to skinned, gutted, quartered, and flinched in 2.5 hours because 19 people worked on them.
Wow.
I tell people, I gave a talk once at a meeting. If you call it a party, students come.
When I was working on Red and Tooth and Claw, which is about this giant wolf, kaiju wolf, I I went and looked online because at one point it gets killed and the military builds a base around it. And so
Yeah.
I actually went and found the world's leading expert on whale decomposition.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, hey, this is what this is. Can you give
What would
me
it look like?
insight at all into the process of something that large
Yeah.
decomposing? And they were really interested, and I never heard back from them, which is a shame. Like they were like, yeah, I'd really want to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. 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 That's true. I think with a wolf like that, you would have had hair left over.
Oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah, it was yeah, eventually I decided like by the time the that is an issue where the story, it's like he's in pretty, he's basically dying and then they build this thing around him and like his intestines have all fallen out and
Yeah.
uh there's like very, very large maggots that are inside it that their people have to deal with and stuff. So, so do you do articulation at all
Hmm.
now, or how did that lead to you to what you're doing now, or is it still the same thing?
Right. But so articulating, if we're doing it for an exhibit, usually I farm that out, or we'll hire someone who does just that.
Hmm. It's
We
very
actually did that for our renovation. We needed a skeleton of a crocodile galloping.
hmm,
Crocodiles of a certain size can actually gallop.
right.
It's the same
Kind of
as a
like
horse. Well, a hind leg to front leg pair.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that sort of inching of your back and then going forward.
Hmm. Those
Yeah,
fuckers are fast too.
yeah, yeah. So we had this skeleton I sent, and this person who does this all the time, like the next day, told me I'm missing three bones. It's like,
Hmm.
well, I had no idea. So, yeah, but there's a place in Oklahoma that does it,
Were they able to
and they
like
do.
manufacture replacements for
Yep,
that?
yep, yep. She actually hand carved
That's
little
cool.
replacement bones to, exactly match what it should have been.
I was
Yeah,
when I was talking to the woman from the CDC, we were talking about how different diseases affect people. You can have the same disease and multiple people, and it will affect them in different ways
yep,
because each person has these things. And it reminded me of something that maybe you've actually or you've run across. Like I had never really thought about it, but I was reading something. Somebody who studied anatomy, a doctor, was saying that the charts that you get with the anatomy charts that you get, they're essentially right, but they're also
yeah,
kind of just a guide. Like everyone is remarkably different internally.
yeah,
Like there may just be different shapes, they might be placed in different places, and
right.
that's how that person ended up.
Yeah, yeah. So during development, everything that is inside you is a tube,
Hmm.
and during development, it spins. And most of us, it stops in the same place, but some people, it goes halfway around again.
Right. Yeah.
So your stomach will be over here instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
remember.
it's totally fine, still works,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. There's a name for it too. Shit. I was
I
actually
can't remember
just.
what it's called. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called either, but yeah, but
Yeah.
it comes into play when someone's appendix is bursting on the wrong side.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
So have you had any like weird anomalous animals that you've done?
Um, we've had not an anatomy, but we've had like strange stomach content,
Hmm.
things like that, or um, things with bizarre injuries that healed funny.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of old specimens will have arthritis, but you wouldn't have
Yes.
known. Yeah.
I'll be right back. Let me see if I could, because I've got some of that
Okay.
commercial time. So I have a band called Ego Likeness with my wife. That's her. And we've had this now for, I'm trying to get the glare, kind of there. We've had this band now for 25 years. And a little more than that, actually. It started out as kind of a dark, noisy trip hop project, and it has kind of blossomed into electronic rock, gothy, industrial stuff. I don't know. I never know what to call it. I always tell people it sounds like everything you like all at once. So if you enjoy strong female vocals, good lyrics, amazing voice, please check it out. I will put some videos for Ego on the end of this interview, and we are also kind of perpetually on tour, either with Ego or with Stoneburner, or lately doing poetry stuff. So, you can go to egolikenessband.com and you can find all of that info out along with anything else. Yeah, so I think that's kind of about it. It's really good stuff, and I'm insanely proud of it. So please, if you're into that sort of music, check it out. Hoping I have a I was hoping to find a I've got a deer scapula
Hmm.
with a arrow embedded in it.
Wow.
So it got hit at one point, and the bone had grown over it.
It's healed
I
around it. That's
also
great.
found this.
Oh, holy cow. Look at that.
Yeah, so
Ah,
I
that's some
if I understand
crazy
that, it's
arthritis.
arthritis. Yeah.
Yeah. And the tendons are ossifying.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. At one point, I have somewhere I had a pelvis that the the tendons had actually turned. I don't know if ossified. No, it wouldn't be
Yeah.
ossified because it was still, but they were still there. So you could really
Hmm.
see the shape that they were.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a fossil in the museum that's on display. It's a giant turtle, big sea turtle, um, and it's missing a leg. And everybody, if you look at it closely, you realize that leg healed. It had been bitten off by something
Mm,
and healed over. So it's kind of a neat little gigantic fossil of predation. And then you start thinking, well, who would have been big enough to bite that?
right. Yeah.
Yep.
So so you're still doing essentially the same thing then now, or?
Now I do it some, but mostly I'm supervising people that do it. I have like a team of about 15 student workers, and some of them do only birds, some of them do, only fish,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them do just databasing.
Hmm.
You know, during the pandemic, we had a great project where we gave all the students locality data for things we hadn't found yet, like old records.
Hmm.
We don't know where that town is.
Oh, okay.
And then they spent all of lockdown on Google Earth looking where that town is in Tibet
Hmm.
and getting latitude and longitude for it.
Oh, so they were like they were. Did they? I wonder if they did they still exist now in some form? Or?
In many cases, they didn't. So
Hmm.
they had to look at historic maps. What
Right.
was there in the 60s?
Right.
And like some of the sites in Egypt are now under Lake Nasser.
Hmm.
So, you have these nice desert sites that had desert lizards and now it's freshwater.
Right.
So it's fun. And for the students, I assigned them where they were supposed to go on spring break. So they could look up sites in the Bahamas because they
Oh,
didn't get to
yeah.
go.
Cool.
They were going to go to France, so they got all of Europe. So it was good.
No, that's
They
awesome.
appreciated it.
It's good that they're, I don't know. I'm just such a huge fan of learning. I think that some
Yeah,
now I'm going to figure out how to knock this quote into these, which was the from Dune with the whole the first my the first thing Muad'Dib learned was how to learn or that he could learn,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and it's amazing to me how incredibly important it is when you like realize that you don't just have to it's not something that's inflicted on you. You can actually enjoy it and keep
yeah,
doing
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
And have fun with it.
right, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I always loved those classes that were organismal. Learning all these species of crab. Like that's cool. you know. Um, so yeah, I always never really worked at those. It didn't seem hard
Right.
because it was
Yeah.
fun and it was how I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think one of my theories about kind of why we're in the place that we are with the country is that I think that you end up with these two types of people. They're the ones that like get that when you go to school, you are paying somebody to teach,
right.
like you are saying, hey, I want to know this. And then there are the people that are still in this kind of much younger mindset or what for whatever reason that think I'm going to show the teacher I'm not going to learn because they're taking it
Yeah,
like this has some sort of weird personalized.
like it's a challenge.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's like, but you're paying for this.
yeah, yeah,
You're asking for,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um,
And then there are those that say, "I paid for that degree. Where is it?"
right. Right. It's like, well, yeah, did you do the work?
Yeah, right, right, right.
Like, yeah, it's fascinating to me. And younger people, their brains are still developing, so they're still
Sure.
kind of figuring that out. But I do think that like, and I've said this in this thing a number of times, but growing up in the U.S. when I was a kid, it was always very there was pride that went along with the knowledge, like, hey,
Yeah.
we're number one in science, we're number one in this or that or the other.
Right.
And so it's all of that seems to be gone. Now it's like,
Right.
we're number one in making billionaires, and
Right. 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 Right.
so
Yeah.
um
Number one in layoffs.
right. I mean, I just watching all that come down the pipe. I feel so like, I live a world away from reality. So, you know, I'm not going to say I'm safe, but I don't have to worry about that. But like, I feel sorry for all because I mean I'm from DC, so I know
Yeah.
a ton of people that are
Yeah.
losing their jobs, and
Yeah.
it's the whole thing's just insane. Um, so that's cool. So this is about passions. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you have your own passions with all of this stuff that just doesn't involve cutting up animals. What
Sure.
are
Right.
about all of this that you love? We've talked about coelacanths and tardigrades and things like
Right. Right. I don't know. I love finding them.
that. Hmm.
When we go out, you know, bird watching or something, and my wife will say that, it's I'll say there's a snake here. I don't see it. Maybe I did, but my brain didn't catch up with my eyes, or maybe that feeling of the light hitting my arm that way on that humid kind of day. But one, I just enjoy going out in the woods and seeing these things do what they do.
Right, yeah.
So for me, that, I'm really good at seeing a lizard from a distance. You know?
Well, it's good. You're trained for it, and you've
Yeah.
used to the shapes. So I imagine it's easier
Yeah.
the the little nuances of the.
Right. But I think that's the kind of thing, like your brain catches it, but you're in the middle of talking and you're like, oh wait, let me
Mhm.
turn around and go back. There was something back there.
Yeah, yeah. I love that how that works with. Well, it's have you read Blink by
No.
what's his- but I don't remember, but
Okay.
it's a fantastic book, and he's talking about what he calls thin slicing, which is it's the difference between when a cop knows that the guy is reaching for a candy bar versus a gun.
Right.
It's the thing
Okay.
that happens so fast that
Right.
it's caught at the instinctual level.
Right.
Um, and there are a good example, just like it's kind of a weird one, but a good example is that like I can watch a band on stage and know immediately within like a few parts of their first song how good their show is going to be after
Okay.
like because there are just little things about how people move and
Right.
all those little nuances.
Can you get a sense of like how they work together?
I never really think about it in terms of the individuals working together. We were on tour with somebody once, and the singer was. It was his first time being a front man. He had played guitar for bands for a year.
Oh,
It was his first time up there and singing. And he was like, "So what do you think of the show?" And I was like, "Well, I think the audience will not notice any of what I'm about to explain to you. However, this is what I see, and they may not think about it, but they're catching it somewhere. I see you going, I'm in this position that's cool. I'm in this position that's cool. I'm in this position that's cool. And I'm moving between these things and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just moving,
Rock
letting your
postures.
body
Yeah,
find the
yeah,
pose, find the natural
yeah.
thing. Like for me, I've been doing this for so long. My entire goal on stage is just don't fall down, you know,
Yeah.
which I managed to succeed most of the time. Although one
Yeah.
time I did jump, come down on a cable, rolled out from under me, and I was able to roll back and then do that kind of kung fu flip before my wife. So that was. I think I used up all of my cool points during that one. Um, but yeah, so it's just kind of how people commit and find that
Right.
When they're no longer when you stop performing and you're just doing it. I guess
Yes, that makes sense when you're not thinking about it.
right, right,
It's like the Zen and the art of archery. It's that
well,
kind
yeah,
of.
yeah, exactly, and
Yep.
that's another one of those themes that comes up very
Yep.
common in this whole thing about how like when I'm painting, the best thing I can do is like don't need this, and
Yep.
just put my hand to it.
Yep. That's how I catch lizards.
Yeah, like
Surprise myself.
I love this because I now have a picture of you just walking through the woods, kind of going,
Yeah. Pretty much. It does cause me trouble sometimes when I nearly catch something and realize it's a very large centipede.
yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
like the
oh,
shit out of you.
oh, yeah. Let me pause.
Yeah, or one of those red, black, and yellow snakes, or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes when you need to think.
Yeah, we were out on tour and we were in Palm Springs, and there's a whole massive, massive wind farm right there, and you can actually go walk right out into the desert. And I
Wow.
was trying to shoot a video out there, and was walking back to the van. I looked down, and something moved, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I found one of those little horned lizards, the little white
Oh
ones
yeah. Yeah,
let
yeah.
out their eyes, just
Yep, yep.
there.
Yeah.
Or we were down in I don't know, it's Caribbean somewhere. Uh, maybe not. Maybe it was South America. And I looked. We were on a little hike, and I looked down, and I see all the leaf cutter ants.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, "Holy shit!
Yeah.
You guys are famous! I've seen all your shows."
I've seen all your shows. I've seen your work.
Right? Yeah, because they're just out there doing their
Doing their thing.
doing their
Yep.
life.
Oblivious to you. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter. Yep. I like that. Life goes on.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's so cool. And then just living where we live, we have vultures now because we
Yeah.
have
You have a body farm.
of raccoons that we feed
Right. Right.
live in a tree on our deck, and they've been fed since for the last 80 years, right?
Yeah.
So we just keep doing it. But now recently, these vultures have learned that we are setting meat out, and
Yeah.
so
Which is also kind of cool. It's a
yeah,
bird feeder.
it is cool. Like I know in general, it's like in general, don't feed the animals, but when they live in your tree on your deck
Yeah.
and you live near enough to a road, that's one of those things where it's like I would rather this they're used to
Then
than have them
yeah.
go forage off out by the
Right.
road.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool. Yeah, you guys have black racers in your yard too, right? 'Cause I
uh,
remember Donna posting a picture of a
oh,
shed
yeah.
skin or something once.
Yeah, we definitely Donna had so we live in the house that Donna grew up in that her grandfather built. And when she was a kid, she just walked out one day and picked up this big fucking black snake and
Yeah.
took it to her shed where she plays with and played, and that was her sneaky
Yeah.
snake.
Yeah.
So that just lived out there with her and her Barbie dolls and
Yeah.
things like
That's great.
that.
It's like my garter snake and my Tonka trucks.
Mhm.
You know?
And then for a few years, every spring, some like a little ringneck thing would lay have her baby snakelets in our pantry. And so you just kind of
Mhm.
get up one day and look out, and there'd just be these little,
Tiny little,
tiny little
yeah.
dudes on our carpet.
Yeah.
Um, we
That's
had
cool.
two cats, one of which did not do well with the snakes and would go at them, but the other one just was just like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's good.
yeah, yeah. We found a mole in the house once. No idea how that happened. I mean,
One of
obviously,
those star nose guys.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Was it
Um,
raining?
I don't know. It was a number of years ago.
Yeah, I find them on sidewalks after heavy rains.
Hmm. Maybe that'd be fascinating if that was one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to ask Dee because my memory is questionable most of the time. Um, because I'm always up my own ass on projects. So are you more or less just content doing what you do, or
Yeah.
do you have a career path that you would?
I'm sort of at the top of what I can do.
Mhm,
The only way up further in the museum world will be to change over to administration.
mhm. And that doesn't sound like fun.
Yeah, I don't really want to worry about budgets that much.
Hmm.
I'd rather spend the money.
Right. That's
So,
reasonable.
yeah. So, and I get, grants to do cool things and um
What kind of stuff?
uh well, I have a grant right now to bring together zoo and museum professionals and sort of bridge the gap between living collections and preserved collections.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's a
What a great opportunity for them. I mean,
yeah,
for everybody, but for them because I'm sure that they don't deal with that part of it. I know the DC Zoo has its own research thing that they do.
right.
But
Yep.
I'm like that's probably and it's a national zoo, so I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just an opportunity that no one's really done. Like, the zoos have so much data
mhm,
on the things that they have, and researchers come to museums to use things because they don't know that.
right,
And if you could somehow combine all that into one big database or one big search engine, people could find out all kinds of things that they right now it's
right,
hard.
yeah,
So
very
so
cool.
that's the 5 year plan. It's
Mhm.
like Star Trek, it's a 5 year mission.
5-year mission to unite the animal
Yeah,
kingdom.
yeah. We call ourselves Zoomu.
Ah,
Your
I think
yeah,
so.
your bones jumped at you.
They did. They really did.
Yeah,
This was
your
good
black bear head.
because we've got this great hill right next to us. And I've got lights hanging off of it, and I wanted to get a good shot of like me holding it with the silhouette, with the light kind of
Yeah,
that sky behind it, just create that silhouette. But it just ran out of time. So I still hold on to it because I'm sure at some point, like that's enough of my aesthetic that at some point I'm sure I'll figure out another way to use it.
your
Or,
Christmas tree.
yeah, right. Or like this guy from
Oh yeah,
the video.
yeah.
He was made out of a
The taxidermy.
form for yeah, exactly. It was
Yeah,
form.
I
Yeah,
can tell that. Yeah.
yeah. It
When I
was.
was a kid, my dad was an amateur taxidermist, and we would
Huh?
sit for hours looking in the catalogs.
Yeah, they're really cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really good at telling mammals by their eye. You know? The
Yeah,
rest, not so much.
and I was so happy when I realized that I had an excuse to actually buy something from one of them because I'm always just
Right,
I I kind of want to just start get some of the forms and just paint them up as skinless
right. Well, like that skinny puppy
alpha.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I
Like
want
they're
to do.
coyote. Yeah, yeah. So
So awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I was going through I ran across this really fantastic chart on evolution and I was just kind of running down it and all the stuff that you're kind of used to, but it was neat to see that the coelacanth is actually on
Yeah,
in our lineage.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
For those of you who don't know, coelacanth is essentially a living fossil. It's I want to say it was like one of the first bony fish. Is that,
It's I don't know. What's the real good claim to fame for it? It's closer to land vertebrates than to fish.
right. And we thought they were extinct, and then we found some in a pod. Well, I think they were originally found like in a wet market,
Yeah,
and
yep. Fish
then
market. Yep.
yeah, then they found living. But we thought, yeah, we thought they were extinct. And the reason I've always thought they were cool. I got excited about it because I ended up using one as a character in a kid's book that
Yeah.
I wrote. And it's one of my favorite parts about like being kind of a nerd about the things that I put out into the world is that other people that those sorts of things resonate with will kind of come back and be like, "Hey,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know
Did
this
you
thing too."
know?
Yeah, and I actually have a cast of a coelacanth fossil on the wall in there because it's like,
Cool.
I don't get to hang out with them ever, but this is kind of close to like,
Yeah.
one of our grandparents,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like having yeah, your great granddad's portrait.
Right. Yeah. I had
Yeah.
have you read Blindsight by Peter Watts?
No,
I shoved that down your throat. Okay, so
I think
one of my
I
very
think you've asked me before.
I probably have because it's one of my favorite books. I wrote Technology Implies Belligerence is based on some of that
Okay.
stuff. And he actually does some narration on it. I like the last song at the end, Theseus Abandoned. He did. Um, but I just I had him on a couple of days ago, and he was well, we were discussing longevity within art, and I was saying,
Hmm.
well, like I'm not too worried about it because when I was in school, I got this massive roll of couch vinyl, and I did all these acrylic paintings on this
Yeah.
vinyl. That shit's going nowhere. Like afterward,
Ever.
it's going to be half-lifing into these things. And he was like, well, that's cool and all, but let me tell you about this other guy. I don't remember his name, and you can check the episode out. I can send it to you if you're curious now. But he's apparently encoded a poem into this really specific um, extremophile that can survive like radiation.
Wow.
And it just gets bred, keeps getting bred, and he has
Wow.
somehow made it so that it's got like a call and response somehow, so that it
Huh.
causes it to glow red.
Oh. Huh.
So yeah, so he was like, so
Huh.
that's like, that's going to be a thing. And I was like, well, shit. All right, well, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
have to beat him because so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start breeding tardigrades with my face on them so that, the sun's going to get really huge. It's going to eat everything up. It's going to get back, shrink back down. And there's going to be this ring of ash. And in the ash are going to be these little tardigrades with dreads and a beard. And they're like,
That would be scary.
and by then, they'll have grown to this monstrous proportion.
Sure.
Just all these giant, like eight-legged me's.
Yeah.
Um,
With the dreads.
yeah, with the dreads. So I look like, so yeah, those
Wow.
guys are so fucking cool. Um, right on. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And
Yeah. Yeah, this is cool.
good, good. I'm glad. And yeah, I'd love to talk to your doctor, your wife about this, her experiences,
Okay.
all this stuff. I'm really trying because I'm trying to, like I said, I've got the band and the writer and the all art people,
Mhm.
plenty of those, and I already have, I don't want to keep having the same conversation because that doesn't help anybody. It's
Right.
cool for them to see, people to see the nuances and the different things, but ultimately, for the most part, we're, kind of doing the okay, well, a thing exists, we bring it down, we put it out, and we try not to fuck it up. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm really trying to find. I've got somebody that's going to be on that is an an expert in medieval Italian vendettas. So
That's
right,
pretty specific.
right. Well, yeah, she's a friend of Nathan's, and Nathan was like, "Yeah, so whenever I go to Italy, I'll take pictures of different streets, and he'll be like, so what happened here?" And she'll go like break down. So yeah, and she probably so I'm excited about that one.
That is cool.
Yeah, yeah. I've got I'm no Sunday I have my very first seriously international one for this friend of mine who moved to Japan, who's uh, very, very serious practitioner of Aikido and
Mhm.
swordplay and all that stuff. This guy I've known since high school, so that'll
Well,
be
that's cool.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, yeah.
a very rewarding
Trying to
project.
think.
What people are getting.
Um, yeah, do you listen to Communion After Dark?
Oh, is that
That's Paradise and Gold and
Ichabod's
those
thing?
guys.
I
Oh,
know of the station.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a guy they have host once in a while, who is, I think, like a nuclear physicist or
Yeah.
something. Lance Cooley.
Can you
I'll send you.
I'll
Yep,
forget it.
yep, yep. But he's always, talking about hadron colliders and things like
Yeah,
that,
no,
and
I'm all about
you
it.
know,
I feel that like I'm pretty well read on most things. So as long as I have enough of some sort
yeah,
of base for it, these car episodes will be pushing it a little bit because I know dick about
yeah,
that. But
right,
with science stuff, I've got a pretty good understanding.
yeah, yeah. And he
Yeah,
does
I
a,
agree.
he like I say, he's always not always, but often on DJing with his own favorite songs for the week, that kind of
Oh,
thing.
cool.
So,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
some,
Well, it sounds like
there's
he's
overlap.
the black wearing family. So yeah, that sounds perfect.
Cool. I'll connect you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you at some point this year.
Yeah. So where are you touring at all?
We're not going up your direction yet.
Okay.
There are some potential things happening in the fall. The problem with not, with wanting to work with other larger acts is that it's not up to me.
Right.
So I'm waiting for the booking agent to kind of get it all together. So I
Yeah.
know, uh, but I know Ego's going out, but we won't be going up that direction. We're playing mechanisms out in Seattle, so we have to
Oh, okay.
how to get out and back
The other coast.
the other coast. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, uh, but like that's not to say that we can't mix. Oh, actually, wait. I am going to be up in your direction. Your direction. I have an art show
Hmm.
in Massachusetts, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Excuse me.
That's closer than Seattle.
Yeah, much. Yeah, I will send you information about that. But yeah,
Okay. Okay.
it's going to be up, and then I'm going to have I'm not going to have an opening for it. I'm going to have a closing for it. So, yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, I'll let you know when I know what's up with that, and I will see. I've got this like my rock concept album. It's finally like it's currently off getting mixed down in Nashville, and but I really want to do some of these songs live, and the I guess husband of the person who is helping me set all this up
Hmm.
is Nathaniel Johnstone, who I've done stuff with before. So I might try and talk him into like just learning a few of the songs on acoustic guitar and doing something with that because
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I it's a really cool record and I really I do want to start kind of getting it
Like
out.
a like an unplugged set.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it actually works very well as acoustic songs.
Yeah.
Like, it's because I mean, it's not my usual thing, but yeah, it's a full on, not like heavy rock, more like a
Right.
other sort of rock album. Uh,
Huh.
so
I'll watch for that.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I will be getting all of that out soon. I'm really excited about it because I think it's one of the coolest things I've done in a long time. So not in a long
Neat.
time, coolest things I've done. So yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Cool. Cool. No problem.
The mother, stagnated spaces, and your cold-blooded brother into the mud until the summertime comes. Into the mud and back to your blood. Out of the egg of the mother, stagnated spaces, and your cold-blooded brother into the mud until the summertime comes. Into the mud and back to your blood. Savior serpent. Talismans can't help you now, so cast them to the stony ground. We can't evolve much further if we let them weigh us down. We worship the rivers and the seas, we worship the stone. The only gospel that we know is encoded in our bones. We are of reptiles. We are of stardust, we are of Mercury, these things are our kin. We are of dignity, we are of mercy, we are of cruelty, and this is not a sin. just remember what you came from, who you are, and you wrote nothing, just enough.